Welcome to the Midlife Bulimia podcast with me, LaurieAnn, your host on circumventing health issues. Hi, I'm LaurieAnn. I am the host of Bleep Midlife Bulimia. In this particular episode, I'm just talking to my group people and I'm just answering some questions in the group that I have on Facebook. And I think that they're very important questions about circumvention. Like, I'm not talking about circumventing in a certain way, but trying to find ways of staying bulimic and not having the circumstances of the consequences thereof happening to you. Are there ways around it? Listen and you'll understand that really ultimately the only way to circumvent and not have the consequences is recovery. Thanks for listening. To my friends here who are on this Bleep Bulimia group, I just want to let you know that for one, I have this up here because I really like my little Hampy, and what are you waiting for? And then of course, start now. Hampy is one of my cartoon characters that I created when I was 18 years old, believe it or not, at the beginning of my bulimia. And he helped me through as a hobby to sketch things out. I've got 2 more books that I'm going to be publishing on him, and a 3rd one that I'm going to be writing about with my recovery. And I know that sounds really strange, but it was a sort of getaway for me. And now what I wanted to talk about was, I know that there's people who are asking if you can circumvent certain issues and still be bulimic. So one of them might be, teeth erosion. The other one might be esophagitis. The other one might be, organ issues or heartbeats or seeing like little yellow stars after a binge and purge. There's no circumvention other than recovery. I will be honest about it, having been bulimic for 30 years, 10 years recovered. I'm so grateful for the 10-year recovery. But interesting fact is my teeth were perfectly beautiful until I was 40. And then after 40, between 40 to 48, just in the last 8 years of my bulimia, they did deteriorate quickly. So whether it be the grinding, so I had a couple of my wisdom teeth that were pretty eroded from the grinding. And yes, I do wear a mouth guard every day of my life now, so that I don't erode anymore, because the grinding continues. It's not as bad because I'm healthier now, but back then it was really bad because of the lack of minerals and whatever it is and nutrients. They can cause that because of the stress to grind. The stress being about bulimia as well, and everything else that goes along with it. The acid erosion, there are no apparatuses that can help that. Not at all. And there's nothing that can help with esophagitis from the acid of the stomach that can cause that, which is really painful. And it can occur on, basically what happens is that certain things that you eat eventually, and it is caused by the bulimia because of the acid. And then eventually there's certain things that you can't eat. So like raw onions really bother it, can bring it on. And it's like a knife, like stabbing across your back when you have it. It's not fun, and it can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 5 hours. And I've had that. And that particular one started, so my bulimia started when I was 18 years old, and my esophagitis started when I was 35. I went to the doctor, and I was always honest with him. And he says, yes, your bulimia has not helped with you having this esophagitis. The teeth, obviously, my dentist, when I was finally honest with him too, he says, yes, it eroded. And at first I used to say, yeah, no, I drink a lot of orange juice. Because he goes, do you drink a lot of acid stuff? And I'm going, yeah, orange juice. No, it was my stomach acid. And I hid so many things. And then, of course, after a binge and purge, there were times where I saw these, like, I guess it would be like snow blind. Like I would come in, there would be big circles of yellow, like coming out from the sunshine. And that was not from being in the sunshine. That was after a purge. And again, that was caused by my bulimia, which I do not have anymore. And all of those things. So if anybody's asking you if there is anything that can circumvent anything of these in order to continue to be bulimic and, you know, save anything, it's not doable. The other thing that it can do is it can ruin relationships, only because, not because you don't love that person, but because either they are stressed out about your bulimia if they find out about it, or you hiding, which would cause you to keep yourself, your emotions internally, you're not talking to them properly. And then also bulimia can cause emotional states where you are not thinking properly. So you might, you know, explode at something. And so your emotions are not proper. And that again is because you're not having the proper nutrients to feed your mind. No circumvention around that either. So I just want to share with you this because when I was bulimic, I would love to have said to you, oh, I found a perfect way to stay bulimic. And today I would say, why would you want to? Because it stops you from doing so many things in your life. And like I spoke to beautiful Christina, we were talking today, and there's so many people that I've spoken to because of my podcast. And one of the things that she said is, you know, you really need to understand that food is an emotional go-to, and yet and it's not just about looks. It's not just about a diet. And diets, by the way, I found to be so exhausting. I'm so glad I don't have them anymore. And we talked about that too. I mean, through the COVID, you know, there's COVID, the quarantine 15, the quarantine 20. I didn't have any of that because thank God by that time I was already recovered for 10 years. And then it comes along, I'm just eating as I do. And when I'm full, I stop. Are there things that you still struggle with after you give up your bulimia? Absolutely. Sometimes I struggle with anxiety. I still do. But what I really have to understand is that anxiety used to be eaten up. Now I have to deal with it. And one of my biggest things I got to deal with is, and I don't like the word, am I good enough? Because I know I'm good enough. I know I am good enough. I really, sometimes I'll be working on the computer and going, darn, you're good at that, LaurieAnn. And I always give myself encouragement. However, my previous failures and they weren't failures because, I mean, how many people have been able to do what I've done? And I'm not going to give you the whole story, but then they're going, wow, you had guts, LaurieAnn, and you did it. And yet, because, so I'll bring one up, is like my auto repair shop that I had. And I was so excited and I did all of the studies on it. And, you know, I was there and I packed up as a single woman on my own and ran it. And after 3 years, it failed. And I know that part of that was me, part of that was the economy. But when you look at, if you keep looking at the past of your failures and where you haven't achieved and what you haven't done, rather than looking at the future going, I can do this, you know, I can get there. It's a lot better place to be. Is that easy to do? Absolutely not. I can tell you there are days I still suffer from the anxiety thinking, oh my goodness, can I get there? But I have to stop carrying my past with me and saying, oh, you didn't make it for there. You didn't make it for there. So you're not going to make it there, LaurieAnn, either. And then everyone's going to look at you and you're going to be a failure again. Yeah. So I have to argue those demons sometimes. The nice thing is that I did realize when I did lose my business, and I probably went down to what people would think the lowest of lowest is, and yet I found it very inspiring because I learned more about myself then. I lived in a barn for 3 years, no running water, but great friends around me, my family supporting me, understanding that that's where I wanted to be. My dogs loved running in the fields, and it was like glamping, as I said. And it really turned me around to say, anything but this, although I loved it, anything up and above this, you're one step ahead. So now I live on a beautiful pond with a beautiful, apartment. And even more so many people who support me. I don't know what it takes to help everybody specifically on how to recover from bulimia. I know that it takes time, and the person has to open up to me to be able to help them with that. Even answering questions on this group, there are so many times that I read them and I'm going, I wish I had the answer to this. I wish I had the answer to this, but I don't know this and I don't know that. And I need to ask that question, that question, that question. But then I don't want to take all of these times to do that and then maybe hit something because you're in a group that might embarrass you me asking it or insult you asking it or sit there and go, what are you talking about? I can do that. But the better part of it is if you need anything in regards to asking on a personal basis, how did you get through this, LaurieAnn? And I'm going through this. I always need a little bit more on that. Why are you here? Why are you bulimic? You really have to delve down into yourself to say, why am I doing this? Why is food so important to me? And the people who love me are less important than food. There's a lot more behind that. That's just one question of many. Anyway, I just want to let you know, there's no circumventing. The only way that you're going to do this and keep your teeth and keep your, and trust me, keep your sanity in the long term of it is recovering. And you can recover 100%, but you have to want to. So if you're looking for some outs, I don't have the answer to that. The only in is recovery. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.